I got the Junker N54 behind me. This is episode 2. We're going to be installing our BMS intake manifold with integrated port injection along with our new sequential PI controller. We'll be putting some off-road test pipes, getting it on our dyno, full E85. Let's see what we can make out of these stock turbos and push them as hard as we can. Then we'll possibly upgrade the fuel system, transmission, and go with larger turbos, but that's all speculation. Let's see what we can do for now. Another thing we'll be installing is our charge pipe blow-off valve kit. I totally forgot that we still had the OEM charge pipe on here. That's a no-no when we're making high boost, so we definitely don't want to mess with that. We want to make sure nothing breaks on the dyno so we can push this thing as far as we can. We just pulled the intake manifold and charge pipe off. Let's take a look at these valves. Pretty caked, as expected on a 110,000 mile N54. We'll install an intake manifold with port injection. That'll clean all the valves out, get everything cleaned up. We'll go ahead and install an ethanol sensor as well so we know the ethanol content. Let's get this show on the road. Intake manifold is on. We put some 550cc injectors. I'm about to put the charge pipe on, but then I realized we're about to turn this thing up. Turn it up! So we need to put our 3.5 bar map sensor and adapter on so we can turn this thing up and make sure we got resolution so we can read the boost over OEM 22 PSI maximum. About to get that on, put the tile blow-off valve on. Let's check it out. Got the BMS charge pipe. I just put the plugs in. Let's put our 3.5 bar map sensor, OEM Continental. Add some lube to the O-ring. Be a nice snug fit. Of course, you will need the adapter set with it. Use the plug and play adapter. Plugs right in here. And the OEM harness will plug through here. Now let's put the tile blow-off valve on it. All right. Just finished up for the night. The intake manifold and injectors are on. Charge pipe and blow-off valve is on. Flex fuel kit is on. Now we'll put some off-road test pipes, get it back on the dyno, fill it with some full E85. Let's see what these stock turbos can do.
What's up, guys? Back with the BMS 335i. We have some new Go Fast parts to put on the car and some maintenance. We got our new BMS intercooler. Big boy. And then we got our downpipes, catless, water pump and thermostat. It's all the hard part. You gotta lube this up because we gotta shove it in there good. Because it's a tight fit back there. Getting this back there, it's tough, but I'm gonna do my best to get it in. All right, so we got the rear inlet in. We're gonna go ahead and let's throw the downpipes on, and then we'll continue on to the water pump side. You move downpipes for the win, bro. Holy shit. 13-year-old boy welds this shit up. All right, let me get this shit on there. So we're putting in the water pump right now. I got the thermostat kind of fitted where I want. Then I can start buttoning up everything and then we can get it off the lift. So I got the inlets installed. I have the water pump and thermostat installed. Now we're moving on to our last thing, which is our intercooler system. Okay, so I have the car self-bleeding itself. Come check it out. Kind of wild right now, so I got to keep the cap on it. But as you can see, you activate the procedure for bleeding through the system, the BMW system itself. It's bleeding all the air of the system, and then we can do our first startup. All the parts are installed, and she's ready to hit the dyno.
Give her a nice startup there, bud. There we go. Just needed a little bit of help to get turned back on. And now that it's done, we'll take it over to Terry, have him do his magic, and then time to throw it on the dyno and see what power we can make.
Several days later.
So it's been a few days since we've had the Junker 335 back with us. Terry's been working on implementing the all-new CANfuel system onto the car. Payam and Terry have been currently doing some development work on the 335 while it's on the dyno, testing out the all-new CANfuel system. Terry has CANfuel set to run the DI injectors at 20% right now, and the PI injectors running all the time. Rather, when we run port injection, our PI injectors only fire at 70% or more throttle input. Since they are still doing development right now, Terry's trying to figure out how low he can go on firing the DI injectors before melting the tips of the direct injectors. Currently, the car has 550cc injectors on it, It seems like we're approaching the limits on those injectors for now. Let's go ahead and show you the dyno graph of what it's doing at 20% DI and 80% PI. Let's see what kind of numbers it's made. The car is currently running 18 pounds of boost, and as you can see, we're at 431 wheel horsepower and 502 wheel torque. The graph looks really smooth, so ultimately we just need to start cranking the car up. But to get around to cranking the car up, we're going to need to up the size of the port injectors. Our next step is to up the 550cc's to 950cc injectors and see how Terry can work with the tuning.
The next day.
We're going to go ahead and install the dual OCC system for the N54.
So the dual OCC kit system keeps oil vapor and oils basically out of your intake and charge pipe track. When you're under load and in boost, we have the boost side, and then under vacuum when you're basically decelerating or just idling. The oil vapors and the oil that get into the charge pipe system and intake track will reduce the octane, which is inefficient for when you're trying to make power.
Typically, most oil catch can kits have aluminum bases which require you to unscrew them to be able to see what's actually inside of them. Lucky for you guys, we have our all new plastic OCC cans so you can easily view the oil that gets stuck in there. You don't have to guess when you have to do maintenance and remove them. Simply view them and see when you need to take them off and drain them out.
On our dual OCC kit, the vacuum side utilizes push lock hardline kits, so you don't get any of the squish during vacuum, even though we do have a check valve in between there, so the can does not get any pressure in the system. The hard lines are meant so it doesn't collapse, and that's what puts our vacuum kits superior versus our competitors.
As many of you know, the N54 runs with a direct injection system from factory. Many people go out of their way once you start pushing high horsepower to add port injection to it, totaling out to 12 injectors on the car. And we keep doing more and more testing with N54s with our personal development cars and customers. We're starting to realize that over time, the direct injectors are starting to fail or have plenty of issues. We're trying to figure out a solution to get around this. That's why Terry started the all-new CANfuel system. The CANfuel system is going to start to weed out the majority of the fueling going into the motor from the direct injection system. Prior to this, 70% or more throttle input with port injection on an N54 car is going to allow the port injectors to trigger. Now we're trying to go vice versa. We're trying to weed out the use of the direct injectors and use more PI for the stability and reliability of the injectors themselves. On the Burger Motorsports 135i race car, we're starting to realize that the direct injectors are no good anymore and they cost thousands of dollars to buy and swap out. Honestly, just not really worth the time when we can figure out a system like this. As some of you guys may be wondering, why not delete the DI entirely? Which, like Payam just mentioned, takes all that stuff, and then more people might think, why not just keep the injectors in there? Unfortunately, after extensive testing with the direct injectors running at 0% injection, the tips will actually melt on them themselves, which is no good. To do so, as long as you have a bit of fuel running through them, it should totally be okay. Terry wanted to see how low he could really go on the injector duty cycle when it came to these cars. If, at 5% injection duty cycle, can the DI tips survive? After extensive testing of running the PI injectors from 60% to 80% to 90%, which, by the way, these PI injectors on the all-new CANfuel system, since they're doing the majority of the work, they're always firing. They don't need to be at 70% pedal input for them to be operating. After doing a ton of these runs back to back to back on the dyno and Terry trying to figure this out, it seems like running the DI injectors at 10% is a safe and reasonable spot for him while using the PI to control the rest of the work. As I mentioned, the PI injectors running from 60 to 80 to 90% is completely working with absolutely no change. The dyno graph is showing the exact same results from PI being scaled more than DI compared to episode 1 where you can go watch where it was DI only. It's making virtually the exact same power with PI more in control. Now that we went over that, let's go ahead and run this car at 90% PI, 10% DI, and let's see if we can scratch any more power out of the car. Let's see what she made here. There she is, 453 wheel horsepower and 563 wheel torque. I am back here in Boise, Idaho. You might wonder, why did that just switch up from the dyno to Boise? I honestly didn't want to use the outro that we did shoot, so I'm here. I've got something special to share with you guys. As you know, obviously, we've been doing the video on the 335 so far, on the Junker 335. Well, we've got our nice N54 right here. This is the big boy. If you guys don't know much about this car, a little recap real quick. Built short block, 6670 next gen precision turbo. Harry and I a few nights ago have been working on the CANfuel development for the car, trying to get it ready to go on the single turbo stuff just to make sure everything works right and cooperates fine with the 135. But we ran into a limiting factor. I'm gonna go ahead and show the dyno clip from 2 nights ago. As you can tell, it's running really good right there. I'll go and put up the graph right here. It was like 790 something wheel horsepower. That's where we were pretty limited though. We were limited with 950cc injectors around that 790 wheel horsepower mark. And today we've got the fix. Thanks to Payam sending these up to me, we've got the new big boys, 1500cc port injectors to get thrown on it. In just a couple days, we're gonna throw on the 1500cc injectors onto the 135, apply our all new CANfuel system to the car, and crank it up and see if we can hit this 1,000 wheel horsepower mark. I'm not really sure if it's possible, but we're gonna go for it. 1,000 wheel horsepower on an open deck block isn't really safe. We'll probably leave it around the 800 to 850 wheel horsepower mark for the racetracks and whatever else, as we don't really want to blow this motor. The junker, on the other hand, the next junker video that you guys see on our 335i N54 project is gonna be insane. When we get back, we're gonna throw NOS onto the car and utilize the JB4 system to run NOS. And not only are we gonna be doing that, we're going to be cranking that N54 all the way up to see how much it can handle until it blows. And yes, you heard that right. We're going to intentionally blow this motor up using NOS. I don't know if any of you guys have ever experienced with the N54 to this length, but we want to do it for you guys. We want to step up our content game quite a bit more. So that being said, let's start blowing motors, or hopefully we don't blow motors, but let's blow a motor. That being said, if you guys liked the video, make sure to drop a subscribe, comment, like it down below. Share it with a friend if you really enjoyed it. If you thought there was any details in here that you would think that they would appreciate. We'll see you guys next week on our B58 Gen 3 video. Catch you guys next time.